are back. Welcome to Pour Over Marketing. I am Rob Southgate. We're a little late today. We were upstairs chatting. It happens. Then I got down here, and I usually have, you can't really tell, but I usually have these lava lamps on just to add a little flair. And the bulb went out today. So let's not take that as an omen. Let's take that as things happen. Move on. Just like marketing. Okay. I have a few things I want to talk about. I have two right away. And in fact, I need to do a double check on that Kickstarter. We talked about the Kickstarter before for Mothman in Love, the trilogy. It ends in 48 hours. So we have 2 days to go from now. And it's at 18,000 out of 25,000. It's going to be a squeaker. Let's see if it happens. I'm actually pretty surprised that, well, I'm not. I thought it would do better than it is. All the earmarks were there. Everything that I know about crowdfunding, they were hitting every benchmark, and then it seemed to stall. And one reason that, everything is guessing, right? Everything in marketing is guessing. Somewhat. I shouldn't even say that. There's a lot of guesswork involved and a lot of hindsight, looking back and going, what worked, what didn't work, why did this not happen? When I'm talking about things that work in Kickstarters, in crowdfunding, in Seed and Spark and Indiegogo, it's based on me watching how things work, me reading about people that have had successful campaigns and not successful campaigns, because you learn a lot from losing as well. And then from obviously personal experience. But then there's the X factors. And when I say there's nothing for sure, it's like, hey, I'm basing it on data, which should make it more of a for sure. But the reality is, it's not. There isn't a for sure regarding this. Really, what I'm sorry, I've got a little cough going on here. What it is showing us this time is that there are X factors. There are things from the outside that can affect your marketing, and you can't get too hung up on it. What you can do is try to pivot, try to work your way through it, but even then it might not work. So in this case, when I saw some indicators maybe a week ago that like, whoa, boy, it's like seems to have stalled a little bit, I started trying to think of ideas. We had a meeting, we came up with some ideas to try to, stimulate things, and it did a little. And here we are, 48 hours from the end, and we still have about, 27% to go. Does that mean they're not going to hit it? No, it does not. It just means it might be a bit of a nail biter, and we're not going to get to the 50,000 that I actually thought they would hit based on the earlier factors, right? But the X factor that I'm talking about is what's going on in outside forces right now. The economy is funky. There's so much like oxygen taken up with the news cycles. Getting a press release, somebody to look at it, even though I know it's a Kickstarter, I know that people don't really do news stories about Kickstarters. We did have a good story. We had something that might get through, and it did. The fact that it did, and yet it still didn't stimulate things, tells me, wow, people are nervous about spending money, or they want to see where it's at the end. Here we are at the end. This is where you usually get a boost. Usually when you do crowdfunding, there's a bell curve to it. We're in that last 48 hours. This is where that bell curve kicks up, and we very well could do it. I've seen people at the 50% mark get it in the last 48 hours. We don't need nearly that much, but I also don't know. I don't know, because of the way the economy and people's fear of spending right now is, they're unsure. And I'm not sure, being unsure, if we'll get that bell curve this time. It'll be really sad if it doesn't, because this really is a wonderful Kickstarter. I know I talked about it before. I'm going to talk about it again really fast. It is for the Mothman in Love trilogy. You can go to Kickstarter, look it up. These special editions of these books, they are cryptid romance books. They are only available for this Kickstarter. That's it. So these fans, it has a huge fan base. They've sold a ton of books. They want this. So why aren't they spending the money on it right now? And the thing that's the indicator is we've probably had, I don't know, 10% pitch in and pull out. It keeps happening. That tells me that it's a nervous group, not the fans. I mean, the people supporting crowdfunding right now. They're nervous. They're not comfortable throwing $150 into something, throwing $200 into something, because they're like, is this being frivolous? You know what I mean? So it's a tricky one. So you, as a marketer, here, I can get rid of that. Once again, it's Mothman in Love trilogy on Kickstarter. You got 48 hours. Get in there and do this. Help us make this happen. Tell your friends. Spread the word. We need this out there. Okay. So the question as a marketer is, how do you get around some of this stuff? Okay. Well, it's tricky. It's very tricky. Because once again, there are not sure things. You could do ads on Google and Facebook. You could pay for ads, but now you're adding into expense. If you don't hit your number, that's money lost. You really don't want to do that. Unless going into it, you've set aside a budget, which is a smart way to do things. Set aside a budget for it. Say, I'm going to spend, I've got $100. Win or lose, I'm going to a casino. Okay. If it's $25,000 on this, I would say maybe $250 up front I'm going to take in with me that I can lose on this gamble. A $250 budget played the right way across Facebook ads or Google ads or Instagram or whatever you're doing could actually be a tipping point. You could reach a lot of people with that, you know. They did that with this. They did have some ads going. I wasn't their target, so it never came across my feeds. I'm not their target. Cryptid romance? Love cryptids. Don't read romance. It's never popped up in my feeds before. Why would those ads hit me? I'm not their demographic. What else can you do? Well, PR is a great way to do it. But as I stated earlier, right now, all the oxygen in the room is getting sucked up. And when that happens, you can't get through the noise. Now, we did cut through the noise. We got on radio stations. We got on blogs. Those are places where it's like, okay, they might be looking for something that is not related to the dumpster fire we're living in right now, right? They want some hope. They want something cool, something fun. This is quirky and fun. And Paige is a great interview. You know, she's a lot of fun on interviews. It's like a Disney princess come to life, right? So if you can get through the noise and get that PR, it can be super valuable. It can be super helpful. But is that enough? What else can you do? Well, you've paid for some advertising. You've done PR work. If you can get it, what else can you do? This is where you get really creative. And unfortunately, this is the trick, because the creative ideas I have that I bring to the table kind of require outreach and building and things that you kind of needed to do earlier to make it bear fruit now. Now you can do some of the things that I come up with, which is I always go to create podcasts, get on podcasts, make live video, do signing sessions, do anything like that. But you have to have a commitment to these things. That's for books. Let's say it's not books. Let's say you're trying to kickstart a movie or you're trying to kickstart a live event or something, you have to think outside of the box and be super creative and make a commitment that in that last 48 hours, maybe you're not sleeping. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you need to go into it with the idea of whatever bush is out there, I'm going to keep banging on these bushes and hitting them, trying to get the birds to fly out of them until my timer runs out. Are they going to hit it? I think they very well could. Is it going to be easy? No, it's going to be a nail biter. We're going to be sitting here tomorrow morning looking at this, and if it's still at 18,000, then I'm going to say, okay, we're getting in trouble here. But right now, I feel like no, we're at the back end of the bell curve, and people that went into it might come back. I'm going to send out a newsletter as soon as we're done with this, reminding people like, hey, 48 hours left, or 47 hours at that point, to get this exclusive version. It makes a great gift. You know, you try to think of where the value is to people, and you want to express that. I say that all the time. I say it in my classes. I say it to you guys all the time. You're a marketer. You're trying to market your small business. You're trying to, your small business might be your newsletter. Where is the value to your reader? Where's the value to your fan base? And if you can express that and solve a problem for them, strum a pain point and have something that alleviates some of that pain, this is where you can succeed in a state like we are right now, where we're trying to like push something over the goal line. Okay. So I did want to talk about that a little bit. And if you guys have any questions about it, you have any comments or ideas, throw it in the comments. Anything to help would be amazing. Other topic I have. Look, I'm drinking this already. I'm too deep on this already. Last time I think I was just starting number 1 when we talked, so I was a little tired. So good today. Okay. So my other subject, because we've already talked about Kickstarters and all that, I just wanted to give you guys an update. Other subject is, and I hope we have people in here that start communicating with me here, because I want ideas. I want to see what you think. Yesterday we had an economic blackout. So I'm not getting into politics. I'm not getting into all of that here. But there was an economic blackout where they were spreading the word. People were spreading the word that don't spend money for 24 hours. And at first, that was the message. And the problem was immediately, same thing that went into my mind. But what if I need gas? What if I need this? And all of a sudden, you're already lost. You've already lost the game. And then the message got more clear, where people were putting like, you can buy essentials, you can buy gas, you can buy food. Don't use a credit card. Use cash. Shop locally. Okay? So yesterday was the day. How are we going to know this worked or not? Because what the whole idea is, the economic blackout was supposed to be sending a message that we don't need to keep pouring money into these billionaires. Okay? That was the message that we were trying to send as people participating in the blackout. I don't care if you participated, if you're red or blue, I don't care. I want to talk about the actual type of event. What they were trying to create, what the people who conceived of this and then pushed it forward were trying to create, was kind of a viral moment. Something that catches attention and that has effect. Don't beat yourself up if you didn't know about it, and don't beat yourself up if you went and bought yourself a coffee or something. Things happen, right? And you make choices, and nobody's a bad guy for it. In general, what you want to do is you want to see that number move. when we say an economic blackout, I know that people I was reading on Reddit today, people were already writing like, well, did it work? Did it work? Did it, stop the economy? Like, no, it's not going to stop the economy. We're not going to get everybody to not spend money for 24 hours, right? And we're also not going to know if it had an effect, because this type of thing you have to do repeatedly. You have to be consistent. And take Black Friday, for example. When Black Friday first became a thing, that's kind of a viral moment. When that first became a thing, that it didn't exist before that to the public. Nobody knew what that was. And then people became aware of Black Friday. They became aware of businesses do sales and promotions on the day after Thanksgiving to take their company from being in the red all year to being in the black, hence the name Black Friday. And then all these companies started promoting Black Friday sales, staffing differently, creating loss leaders and things like that. It was a viral moment that took a while to gain traction. I was working retail when it was first kind of happening, and it wasn't what it became. I was also working retail when it really took hold, and all of a sudden places are open 24 hours and employees are being forced to work all through Thanksgiving, and give away stuff and have these weird promotions. And it was like, it was nuts. It has cooled mainly because of the cyber aspect of it. People can go online and order stuff at the discounts now. Same thing here with this economic blackout, though. It's a viral moment that they're trying to create. Somebody is. So what I want to know is how do we do that? How do we get that message across? So I'm reminded of something a few years ago, when we had started our company. So 12, 13 years ago now? I can't remember. Uh-oh. Uh, we we did a show called The Killing Podcast. And there was a group on Facebook, the Killing Fan Group. And the woman who was running that had done all this research into Twitter, which was Twitter at the time. And she had this algorithm worked out that she had tested that worked on how to become viral on Twitter, how you could trend. So, how you go into Twitter and it would have the hashtags. Let's say these are the trending hashtags. Now, all the different platforms, you can go in and look at analytics and find what's trending, right? You could even go to Google and say trending hashtags and you'll find it. But she had this way of doing it that was really interesting. And it had worked for her. It's shifting sand. Trying to do what she did then would not work now. It simply doesn't. Not only because of, once again, the dumpster fire that Twitter is, but because the algorithms are constantly changing. How you interact with these things is constantly changing. If you're going to chase that tiger, good luck. There are people that do it that are very successful at it, but man, it is not easy because every day that sand is shifting. So how do you get a message like this out? How do you create a viral moment? Now, I know that for what I interacted with, it was on Facebook. There are groups that are larger groups that were like against our current government or that are leaning one side or the other. And that was where it kind of started. Now, I don't know who started it. They may have picked up on it, but the economic blackout idea, it came across. I was reading the one guy's post that came up, somebody that I follow, and he just said, "Hey, I don't like what's going on, and I'm going to participate in this economic blackout. And he posted a thing that said, February 28th, 2025, do not spend money for 24 hours. Send a message. This is what they hear is money. And then I started seeing it in all these different groups. And then from the groups, individuals started sharing it. Spread the word. Did it go further than that? Yeah. I mean, I think it got press. It ended up on news shows. It ended up on radio and getting talked about. But my first encounter with it was it got posted to one of these groups, and it might have been just an individual that said, let's do an economic blackout. Kind of like when the Amazon one happened a month ago. And the post that I saw, the original post, was just somebody that said, I am so angry, we need to have a blackout of Amazon. Let's send a message. And this is what we're going to do. And then it was like his thing got shared and shared and shared. But how? If you're thinking, well, how am I going to spread the word? I sell remotes. Can I use this to my advantage? Well, probably not. Doing a viral sale is very different than a cultural moment, a viral moment that you're looking to do. But if we strip that out of it, okay, and we look at the how, it's kind of like farming. You put a seed in the ground, you can watch it come up and follow that trajectory, or you can analyze it and watch, well, what was the root system? What did it need to make that happen? Was it pulling nutrients from the soil? Was there extra water? Did it need sunlight? What are the things that made that thing grow? Same thing here. If you're trying to create a viral moment, it's different than an advertisement. It's different than a promotion. You're trying to spread a message like a virus. That's where they get the name viral. So when we talked about the Kickstarter at the beginning, can I do this with the Kickstarter? Not in the same way, but I'm starting to think there is a germ here. Okay. And here's what I'm thinking. If you guys have any ideas, please share them with me in the comments. Here's what I'm thinking. We take this blackout thing. It started as a post, and then it spread. If you can get a precise message that solves a problem, that strums a pain point, that shows value, it's got to be precise. This economic value one, the first one I saw, it was like one or two sentences, and it was clear what it was doing and why. And if there was value in that to you, you could not help but share it. Okay? So if you have something like that you want to spread, I think the key is it can't be. No, I'm not even going to say that. It could be. Let's look at the root system. There we go. Okay, so they do this post. Then either the person who wrote it originally or people that encountered it, which is probably, if it was just like an individual, like if I posted it, it would be my friends that see it, right? I go to the groups where I know. I go onto Facebook, okay, because you can have groups there. I think Blue Sky now has lists, and you can go look at lists, but Facebook is the easiest one for this. Uh, or well, okay, we'll go with Facebook. Get ahead of myself. We go to Facebook and we find groups. So in this case, it went and said, okay, what are the groups that would want to participate in this? There's one called the other 98%. There's one called Occupy Democrats. There's one called I think it's called anti-Trump or something. But the people that are in there are trying to be active or stay informed on things, and they're the ones that would want to participate in this. There's a value in this to them where they go, hey, I can't do much, but this is something I can do. Hopefully send a message so it changes some practices, changes some ideas. That's what I would start with. I would look for groups that share this. So this is where advertising is tricky. But maybe not. I have a microphone. I want to sell a microphone. We've got this microphone we created. Actually, this is a great example. This microphone here, the Shure mic. It's an MV7. I am absolutely in love with this microphone. I don't know if you can tell when I'm streaming like this, but when we do a podcast, this microphone is, in my opinion, the perfect podcast microphone. It's really balanced. It doesn't pick up a lot of noise outside. It makes my voice sound great. It's a fabulous microphone at a great value for what it is. So if I'm the person who has the SM or the MV7, if I'm a store selling it, this won't work. If I'm a store just trying to advertise that I've got a sale on stuff, that's not going to work for a viral campaign. But if I'm the manufacturer of it, I'm the person who wrote the book, I'm the person who has whatever business that I'm trying to promote, not a promotion for Mike, but I make the mic, or I'm sure who makes the mic. So the manufacturer. The first thing I would do is try to figure out, in this case, who is my target audience? Well, I said this is like the ultimate podcast microphone. Okay, where are the podcasters? Oh, they're everywhere. They're not. I mean, they are, but they're not. Where are they going where they ask about equipment? Where it's not just people saying, here's my show, everybody listen, but they're saying, I need a team, I need a support system as a podcaster. Where are they? Now, if you've really done your work, you know that you sell this microphone. You started 3 months ago finding these groups and becoming a member of them. For this viral thing we were talking about, somebody had to have seen it to get aware to make it go like that. Probably somebody who's a member of one of these groups who created this and had the authority to post it. Because not every group lets you just post whatever. You have to get approval. And sometimes you post a great post, but if nobody in there is familiar with you, it gets buried sometimes. Okay. So what would I do? I would think about number one, where do I fall in this food chain? Am I the one who sells this mic? And then I would go to these groups. I would infiltrate by being active. Like once you achieve that top contributor thing, you're there. Okay. You're part of that group. And now I would go, okay, how do I create that viral moment, that one sentence or whatever, two sentences that is super clear, that demonstrates value, that solves a problem, that strums a pain point? How do I craft that? And I would take the time to craft it. And in fact, I might even go to like, what is it, trends.com, SEMrush. I would do my research on these sites that talk about keywords and hashtags and trends and find out, Is this a trending topic? Is this something people are looking for? What trending topic ties exactly to what I'm doing? I would try to figure that out. And I would try to get that in the text of what I'm saying, no matter what it is I'm selling. If I'm selling this picture here, I would figure out who's the audience that wants this picture, what is at the essence of it, what does it do, what problem does it solve if they get it, what pain point does it have for them, what value does it have for them. This cell is a piece of history. If you're an animation fan, if I were to explain what's going on here, it might hold a lot of value. To the average person, it might hold zero value. So you have to figure out who's the audience, what's the value, what's their pain point. Maybe everything they've bought, they're animation fans, they buy cells, but they're all Sarah cells. This is a production cell off of a landmark piece. This is unique. It's super rare. What does that customer derive from all that? And how do I strum that? You want this to have the collection. You collect for a reason. Why do you collect? What pain point is getting strummed that makes you fill a hole with stuff like this, right? And then I can make something concise that works that. It's really complicated. The way they spread these viral ideas is all the things I'm talking about. And in fact, I know you might think I'm nuts, but people that are like really successful on like TikTok or that have these really successful blogs where you're like, man, they make a fortune at this thing. And they go, oh, well, I put in the keywords and I do this, and you try it and you go, yeah, it's because they're doing this other part of it. So how do you spread this message about economic blackout? You do everything I said. You craft it in such a way that I saw like it was like a purple background or a red background or something, and it just said, let's send a strong message. January 28th, 2025, do not spend any money for 24 hours. Saying that, I know exactly what it means. I know exactly who it's talking to. I know exactly what pain point I'm getting triggered with. And then how do you spread it? You get in the groups. You start sharing. You go to the different platforms. You start sharing. Now you get a little traction. Maybe I wouldn't spend money on a Facebook ad, but if you're super passionate about it and you go like, you know what, this is super important to me. I'm going to spend Google ad money. I'm going to spend Facebook ad money. Okay. Maybe you spend the money or know how to put out a press release about this. This is a grassroots thing. We are doing this on this date. Spread this information. It worked. When all I saw was a thing, I shared it. I got a bunch of comments. A bunch of people shared it off of my post. Then I started seeing a lot of other places doing it and changing it a little bit, making it more clear. So it said, here's the thing. Here are the two sentences. Boom. But then it would have a thing underneath it that would say, you can do essentials. You can use cash. Do not use cards. Do not shop at, like these big places. Shop locally. Oh, now I have instructions. You strum the pain. I was in, but now I have instructions. I now get what this is. So that panic, that worry is gone. If the first thing I encountered was this whole big thing, am I going to read it? I might. You might. But a lot of people are going to skip over it. They need one sentence, two sentences. Bam. Just like advertising. You ever see a billboard? You're driving along, you see a billboard and it has all this text. I see it. A billboard you should be able to glance at, see those 4 words, get back to your driving, and it's like, those 4 words just stuck in here. It hit a pain point. I'm thinking about it now. Maybe the image did, an image is worth 1,000 words. Well, maybe the image gave me those 1,000 words, and all they had to say was, "Call us for a dry basement." And the image showed somebody up to their knees in water in their basement looking really unhappy. Call for a free quote. We'll finally make your basement dry. Man, if you're somebody that needs that, that works. Free quote? Let me go see how much this costs. So if we go back to the idea of this whole thing that spreading a viral concept. It worked for this thing, okay? And now it's got legs, just like Black Friday. I don't know if you guys have encountered this, but you've got the thing that says economic blackout. And then people figured out, no, it can't be once. It has to be consistent. There has to be consistency to this. And there is now a thing you'll see, and it'll have all these dates with different types of economic blackouts. And here's the crazy thing. Because it got that first message through and I wanted to participate, now I see these and I'm like, okay, which ones? Like one of them was a blackout on Nestle. I already black out Nestle. I don't like their business practices. I think they're terrible to employees. I try very hard to stay away from anything Nestle. It's hard. They own a lot. But I try to stay away from Nestle where I can. And can I do that blackout? Sure. I don't need to buy any Nestle products. If it was a week, I don't need to buy anything. If one of their divisions makes dish soap and it's the dish soap I use, well, make sure you buy that dish soap before that blackout. You go, yeah, but then they got a spike in sales just before the blackout. Doesn't matter. They also found out that for 2 weeks you were willing to say, I'm going to be thinking negatively about you and not buy your product. Okay. So this virus took hold, took the economic blackout day. It's now turned into these various days. People are paying attention. It's spreading. I'm seeing it come from various friends. I'm seeing it in places that are now outside of those couple of groups. It's starting to infiltrate other places. I saw it all over Reddit today. Then the big question is, how do you know? Well, you know what? Here's the problem. People went online looking to see yesterday even, is it having an effect? They were looking online this morning. Is it having an effect? Did it work? Those numbers don't start coming through to the companies for at least like a month. When they go back and they start running their reports and they see that their number went, they were like this, oh, our sales are up here. And then one day it went boop down and then right back up. And they go, is that an anomaly? Oh, no, that was the economic blackout day. Oh. But they're not going to know that yet. So how do you find out if your viral thing worked? Well, once again, it's what I said at the very top of the show. It's hindsight. And if it doesn't work, you can't give up the ship. You have to look at it. What didn't work? Why didn't it work? Why is this Kickstarter not quite where I thought it was going to be? Because it deserves to be. Why is it not there? Well, we're not having hindsight, but I am having hindsight over the last week, and I'm going, wait a minute, I'm seeing a few factors out of our control and some within our control that are attributing to this. Does that mean I give up the ghost? No. Doesn't mean we're even out of the woods on this thing. We may hit it. What it means is on the next one, this is now part of the conversation. You keep going. You keep figuring it out. With us, I'll give you a real world example of that too. And this does not have to be about Kickstarters, right? I'm just going to give a Kickstarter example. This is whatever you do. This is whatever your marketing initiative is, right? So with our Kickstarters, we did for our second marathon, we did a Kickstarter, and we said we need to get X amount to pay for printing and things like this. And then we had a stretch goal that paid for some equipment that we needed. And then a stretch goal that was like, hey, if that works, we're going to buy this to make it even better. And it was stuff that we looked at and we said, these are things we can use for our network afterwards. So it's not a one-time use. So it's really building value into this. If you're a fan of what we do, if you want to support us, this is a way to really support us, but it's going to make this event super special, right? And it worked. We got into our stretch goals. I think we opened up 4 stretch goals or 5. I mean, that's crazy. Then we did it again, and we didn't hit the stretch goals the same way. I think we hit 1. We made it for a smaller amount because we're like, look, we didn't need as much this time, but we do need materials and things because we don't charge for the event. And it worked, but it didn't bring in the money that the first one did. Then we went and did it a couple more times. And the last one was one we did right when we were closing our network. And it was Southgate Media Group Podcast Marathon 6, SMGPM 6. And we were like a well-oiled machine at this point. We had a whole way of putting things together. We had everything was in place. And we were doing a very small Kickstarter because we wanted it for marketing and for, some things like that. And it had a stretch goal that was an upgrade to video for things for our network. It would have been really great. And it died. It died so fast. It was like, wow, this is disheartening. What was the difference? We did all the things we had done before. And it's not until hindsight that you realize where the boulders were in your path, where the speed bump was that you tripped over. Now, did we go back to that well and do another one? No. Will we? Yes. We didn't do it at that point not because sour grapes, not because, we lost once, we're out of it. No, we said, okay, we've got other factors. We have a different way we want to do things. We have something different planned. And when we do that, we're going to use the things that worked the first time. Look at the things that didn't work in this last time that caused us, some of the factors that caused us to not succeed, and try to replicate those. And try the ones that didn't succeed, we don't want to replicate. Try to eradicate those, replicate the things that worked. Whew. Maybe that's why it failed. They tried to replicate the things that didn't work. Now that is for that type of thing. But what about your viral moment, or what about what you're trying to promote? Do you throw something at the wall, it doesn't stick, you move on or give up? Or do you go, I'm not going to throw it the same way. I'm going to try some different factors, but what was it that made it not stick? And get right back on that horse and go for it. If you look at it like a plant, like I said, what the fruit was when we hit all those stretch goals, and here's your nice plant really growing and bearing fruit. But what are the roots down here that worked, that got you there? And once again, let's use the plant analogy, roots and things that die off. So if I were to do this economic blackout campaign, and you start analyzing it and going, here's what worked, here's what didn't. Would I want to replicate everything the next time, do exactly the same thing? No, because some of those roots are going to dry up. Some of those roots are dead, and you have to find where the water source is. That's what a plant does. The roots move because the water or the nutrients are over here now. They don't just go, I'm going to keep digging right here. No, they expand, they grow out. They look for the nutrients, the customers. They look for the water, the money. So when you're doing something, do you do that stuff? Do you look at what you've tried Do you look at things even that you didn't do? Do you look at things like this viral campaign and go, what did they do? And does any of it apply to what I do? There are lessons to be learned from everything. I always say there's genius sitting next to you. There is. There's people that are in the room with you that you may disregard as like, yeah, they don't really know anything about marketing, so I'm not going to engage on this. But they may say the one thing that is the tipping point for you that changes everything. Because people have good thoughts. They may not even know that they have the thought about the thing you need, but when you listen to them, when you pay attention, when you look at the data, when you look at what worked, what didn't, and then you really try to, the key is to put it in your blender and your filter to change that to go, oh, that's the lesson I needed right now. That's what works right now. So did this economic blackout work? I, on the surface, I would say it did because I saw a lot of people posting about it. I saw a lot of pictures of Target parking lots that were empty. And it's like, okay, did it work? Kind of looks like it did in that respect. Is it going to move the needle? Don't know. But if people stay in there with it and it stays consistent and creates a movement, yes, it moves the needle. For you marketing your stuff, don't give up if the needle doesn't move. Keep trying. And if you have to do it with no budget, going on groups, using your hashtags, being creative, that will get you there. I've got a whole thing I'm working on right now about how to market without social media. It's funny because one of the first things I start talking about is how to use social media in it. But social media is an illusion. So how do you market? What could you do? If we were talking about Facebook here a lot, but if I were creating one, how would I get around this if I didn't have social media to use? There are lots of ways. Social media didn't exist. I mean, think about it. I'm 56, okay? Spoiler, I'm 56. And how much of my life was social media here? What, 17 years? Something like that. I remember Molly, I was working at an electronics store. And oh, yeah, I know exactly when. It was December of that year, and the place had gone bankrupt. So now I'm out of work. And I have a little bit of time. And that was when I cut my finger off. Bam. And I remember like day 2 of being home, I was already getting itchy about stuff and I didn't have a job. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try and set up a Facebook page. This is like the thing. Before that, it was MySpace. We never even jumped on the MySpace page thing. But I was like, oh, I want to set up a Facebook. And Maeve and I both set up Facebook pages. So that was, Molly was born. So that had to be 17 years ago. That was it. I didn't have, if I wanted to market something, I didn't have Facebook to market it with. Now, MySpace was a great example of it working because Taylor Swift built a career off of her expertise in MySpace. That was where she had the seed, and the roots went down, and she kept working those roots. Very smart. But going forward, I mean, look backwards. That stuff didn't exist. Taylor Swift found a tool, a place to plant the seed. Most marketers now immediately go to social media. I hear my students do it all the time. I do a thing where I ask them about, like, okay, here's a scenario. What would you do? And the first thing every time, well, I would post about it. Where? How often? What would you say? What hashtags would you use? What images would you use? What's your voice in that? And what if you can what if your fans are not there? or you haven't found them. What are other ways to market it? And it's funny because if you go back 25 years ago when we opened our store, none of that stuff existed. I remember having a conversation with a web guy about blogging, and I had never heard the term, and he was all about blogging, but what he wanted to do with it was terrible. He explained it to me, and I'm like, "Oh, I get what you could do with this." And he was like, it was awful, awful what he was thinking about doing with it. I'm sure he's out there wrecking other people's stuff even today because of the non-forward thinking and non-creative thought process. But okay, uh, but you go back then, and the social media part of it didn't exist, not really, not like it does now. So what did we do? And what do you do? Do you throw all your eggs in one basket, or do you keep looking for nutrient-rich soil that you can now become a part of? And also, keep in mind, there are things that die off. Pinterest is a great example. Pinterest was the rage for a little bit, and then it kinda lost steam. It didn't go away or anything, it just I wasn't hearing about it like I was in the circles. And now Pinterest is being used a different way, and Pinterest is incredibly interesting. LinkedIn was super hot for a while. I was talking about it all the time. I was trying to work LinkedIn. Now it's having trouble where people are like, "Oh, it's kind of not the place. It's not gonna work for your marketing." Well, the group part of it, the business part of it actually can still work, where if you have a business and you set up your shop there, you might be able to create something cool there. But where is the place now? In my opinion, Substack. Before that, it was blogger.com, or it was your own website with a blog in it, or your newsletter. All very viable. You guys know, how I feel about that stuff. I was watching today. This is a really great documentary you guys should check out. I'm going to highly recommend it. On Amazon, I can't believe nobody's written a comment. All this weird stuff I've been talking about. On Amazon is a documentary about Tom Green. You guys remember him? Tom Green show. And it's really, really, really great. But there's a great moment in it where it's towards the end. Spoiler. Uh, First of all, there's so much marketing savvy in this, and so many lessons. Like I'm excited to rewatch this with Maeve, and then we're gonna make Molly watch it too, because not only is it entertaining, Tom Green made it. His story is really interesting, but there's also so many like lessons that are coming through in it, not intentionally. It's not what he's doing, but man, it's there. And there's a great moment at the end where, because his show, I forgot he had all these different shows too, right? And there's a point where this woman is on there, and she's, I think, one of his agents, and she says, aside from all the stuff, he also was more of a visionary with technology. And she talks about how, or it shows him talking about how uh, he had gotten to the point where he had this talk show, and it was kind of like a late night with David Letterman, and it was getting rave reviews. I don't even remember this show, and it showed clips, and it was like there were tons of guests, and it looked like all that stuff. And then he said he's getting interviewed on something, and he said, "Look, we're not going to need any of this as video catches up with TV, video streaming. Basically, you don't need TV anymore because." And he said it. He goes, maybe Bill Gates is going to invent a flat TV that's going to sit on your wall and it's going to connect to the internet. You can do everything from there. You don't need the other stuff. And it streams. So now anybody can have a TV show live interacting. That was years before this stuff was possible. And he was saying it's coming. And then he, like, burned it all to the ground, and he started a thing called Web TV or something, Web TV maybe? And he did a talk show from a room in his house. He brought his old desk from his original Canadian talk show, put it up in there. He had 7 cameras, he had a switcher, and he got great guests in there too. But he was like, "I don't have to leave my house. I can create this great content right here, right now." And when you watch that, you go, "Okay, first of all, he did this amazing thing. He utilized the technology to create something new, which had an impact because he was the first really doing that. And now look at us. This guy is sitting here talking to you this way." But then we start talking about the marketing. How did he spread the word? How did he make the noise? They don't say it explicitly in here, but watch it. Because, like I said, there are lessons. There are lessons everywhere. Okay, that's it. I will be back next Saturday for Pour Over Marketing. In fact, I'm hoping we're in the middle of this big project. I'm hoping that next week we can start talking about a new aspect to this that I am very excited to bring out. And this is going to be a major focus going forward. So, as I have said before, you want to subscribe to my Substack, my podcast. Well, there's the New Media Lab podcast. Subscribe to that right now. That has I share episodes from this. I've got some other things planned for that. So you want to go on wherever you get your podcast, subscribe to it. New Media Lab with Robert Southgate. There is also the YouTube channel, New Media Lab, which has different content coming, including these episodes. So you can go back and watch things. I have a Substack, which I love for Pour Over Marketing. It's at robsroundup.substack.com. I've got 2 Substacks on there. One is Pour Over Marketing. One is Mic Drop, which is all about podcasting. And that I keep adding things to, getting very exciting. There's also a Buy Me Coffee, buymecoffee.com/SMG pods. And that's something I'm doing some new things there, which it's content that only lives there, that stems from there. I'm starting to share some of it outward, but I don't put it outward immediately. You get it there first, but it's a way to support our network because Southgate Media Group 2.0 is fully here and growing. And that is one of the places where you can get in on that. Every Saturday morning, Pour Over Marketing, we're right here. I'm talking to you. If you guys have questions, write to me. You can do it either in the notes on this. You can email me, rob@smgpods.com. You can go to the Facebook group. Wherever you interact with this, I see it. Write to me with questions. Write to me with comments. If you have a guest idea, I'm always looking for guests. In fact, I'm going to be doing a live Substack with somebody very soon where we do the show, and concurrently we have a live guest, maybe not concurrently, maybe after the show, a live guest on Substack. How cool is that? Once again, technology and the cool things you can do with it. Okay, that should do it. Thanks again, everybody. I can't wait to talk to you next week. Hopefully there'll be some fun announcements in there and some new things. And that's it. So keep marketing, keep trying things, keep trying to figure out what made it go viral, and go watch that Tom Green documentary. It's exceptional. Really lots of great ideas and a lot of fun to watch. Have a great weekend, everybody.